Hello! In today's video, I'm going to be giving some tips for free-to-play and Palmon survival. These tips are primarily going to be focusing around SSR tier Palmons because this is something that you need to take advantage of as a free-to-play player. Before we get into that though, let me go ahead and point out one thing first. Let's go ahead and get some gifts here for free. We go ahead and enter a gift code. At the time of recording this video, the active gift code is EcoSurvivor, and if you join the Discord, it looks like they post one of these codes roughly every 3 weeks or so. Let's go ahead and see what we got from that. Okay, so we got 500 pallite, some resources, and 2 hours of speed ups, or an hour and a half or so of speed ups, 100 minutes. Not bad. So now let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video, and before we talk about SSR Palmon, let's go ahead and point out some things that free-to-play should be doing all the time. So the first thing definitely is going to be using the nursery to constantly breed a Palmon that you want. Now for me right now, I am breeding a Ninjump because I want to get a Ninjump with some better traits here. But if you are not in the stage where you want to start breeding a better Ninjump or other rarity Palmon for fighting, what you can do is go ahead and check out my previous video where I went into great detail on the types of Palmons that you want to breed for certain jobs. Like, for example, this building speed bonus here, 16 minutes times 3, a total of 58 minutes of building speed bonus, plus some of the other things that you get like from tech. So it's really important that you go ahead and also breed Palmon for economic reasons, and then once you are done with that, you're going to want to go ahead and use the breeding for PvP reasons. And in tandem with this, you are going to want to go ahead and get 120 daily activity every day. That way you can get this chest here, which gives you the wreaths that are required for breeding Palmon. And if you go ahead and take a look here, you can already see that I have 6 extra wreaths, so it's important to go ahead and continue to use your nursery as much as you can. That way you don't get a big build-up like I already have going here. And another thing that you want to make sure that you are staying on top of is your idle lands. So this is just going to passively give you experience, and it's very important to level this up as much as you can. And when you are in the early game, you can also, if you fail one time against one of the opponents here, like let's say we go ahead and go in here, you can see I'm at like a 1,000,000 power disadvantage, but sometimes if you fail, you can actually go ahead and try again and you will succeed. It looks like, okay, so we're barely going to fail here, but sometimes you can go ahead and try again and win. I don't think that we're going to end up winning here, since I think we are just like way too far. Yeah, we're probably way too far above our punching power, but at least in the earlier stages, sometimes when you fail, if you try again, you're going to get better RNG and then you can win. Now on top of the idle lands, you're going to want to make sure that you're doing all of your intel quests here. It's very important. You're going to get so many rewards from doing this. And similarly to when you were failing in the idle lands, sometimes you're going to fail against the elite challenge here, and then you can go ahead and try that again as well. I'm kind of curious to see if I can go ahead and get further in the idle lands now that I'm using the Insurperator here. Let's see. Okay, it looks like we're just not quite going to be able to get there. Again, we're pretty far along in this. I think that a general rule of thumb is that you should probably be on the same level in the elite challenge here as your camp level, and this is level 17, and I believe my camp level is level 15. So yeah, we're punching a little bit above for weight there. And one more thing that you want to make sure that you are staying on top of, especially as free to play, because you need all the value that you can, is both your daily Palosseum battles and your daily DoJo challenge battles. Now the reason why this is so important is that if you go into the shop here, you can use this prestige that you gain to get a bunch of different rewards here, and especially these opus pearls down here. Once you get to legend tier, assuming that you can, it's going to be very highly valuable to get those. And in the meantime, even picking up like the ultra rare Palmon shards or the lucky equipment chest could be super high value. Now one more thing before we go ahead and get into the SSR heroes that you should be using. is something that you need to pay attention to, and that is counter types. So if we go ahead again and try to fight this Meowdame level 17 Elite Challenge here, click this little eye in the top right, you can see that water counters fire, fire counters earth, earth counters thunder, and thunder counters water. And you also have a buff here underneath, and this buff dictates that when you have multiple Palmon of the same type, you get a damage buff, which is super powerful. So for example, if we were to run all 5 water types here, I believe that this guy here is a water type, we would get a 20% damage buff. So this would be super strong against fire types. Now unfortunately, the Meowdames are themselves water types, so this doesn't take effect here, but for example, if we were to get a few thunder types, just for this Meowdame challenge, we probably would do pretty good. Oh, and look at that, we do end up actually winning, even though we were struggling earlier. So switching maybe from the Inserperator to having 5 water types ends up working well for us. Nice. And now that we have gone over what counters are, let's first go ahead and take a look at what SSR Palmons I use. So I think the Inserperator has a lot of potential to use this guy. The reason is that this skill here is just super strong. And now you probably do want to upgrade this guy here, his skill at least. I just haven't been because I'm kind of low on these skill points. Maybe I didn't use them quite the smartest way. But yes, I think the Inserperator is a great choice just because of how powerful this skill is. And then another really good choice, which I don't have unlocked yet, is this guy here, the Snow Cami. You get this guy at the very start of your playthrough by doing rallies with your guild. So it's important to start in a fresh server in order to get access to him. And he has 3 skills that are purely focused on attack, which is awesome. And you're going to get a bunch of his shards as well, so you're going to be able to level him up very quickly. Now another good option here that I have is Platyputs. He is a great tank. Now he has 3 skills relative to combat as well, but this skill here is super nice. It's also kind of an RNG thing. So he gives the Palmon with the lowest HP, so I guess maybe it isn't quite RNG dependent, but yes, he gives the lowest HP Palmon a shield. So this is either going to shield himself or somebody else in the front row, which is super nice. I kind of wonder if maybe he could be like a backline tank or something because of this. And he like gives a shield to a frontline tank, and then eventually he comes to the front line. But I wouldn't worry about that. He's just a solid tank choice. In the same vein as Meow Cami, because you get so many of his tokens, I'm also using Meowdame, or Snow Cami, sorry. I'm using Meowdame here. You can see I already have them up to 3 stars. Now one thing to note is that once you do get a Palmon up to 3 stars, it takes 60 Palmon tokens, so 300 Palmon tokens in total. 300 Palmon tokens in total to level them up to 4 stars, so you see that would take quite a while here. We only have 65 Omni tokens, but yeah, you're going to be able to get them to 3 stars relatively quickly, probably in your first week of playing, so they'll be pretty strong. And then we also have Squeezle here, which I believe is still a pretty strong Palmon. I actually don't have any equipment on them, so that's definitely a mistake. That's one thing you want to make sure you're checking too, is that yeah, I don't even have any equipment on the Meowdame either. You definitely want to make sure you're applying equipment to all your guys as often as possible, just so you don't accidentally forget. Now, I did suggest Axolium in a previous video, so I don't know if he's necessarily the greatest after testing him a little bit more. He is an earth type, so if you do want to run 2 or 3 earth types, I guess he's probably pretty good, but right now we are focusing mostly on 5 water types. So with that being said, if we were to go ahead and do a 5 water type all SSR lineup, we go ahead and select this guy here. We would have to probably use the builder guy, which probably isn't great, but I don't think that it's absolutely necessary to have a 5 SSR lineup, because you are going to be getting a lot of ninjump tokens at the start. But if you do want to have a 5 SSR lineup, you'd probably want to use these 4. You'd want to use Meow Dame in the back line, Platyputs in the front line, probably Squeezle also in the front line. And then you would want to have this guy here, your Snow Cami, in the back line, along with the Inserperator. And alternatively, you can also have the Inserperator in the front line. It just depends on what you're fighting against. You kind of want this guy to get his skill off and do like an absolute ton of damage, and he might not be able to if he gets targeted down too quickly. Now, if we go ahead and take a look at Ninjump, you can see that I have my Ninjump here almost to 2 stars. And the way that I was able to do that is that you get a lot of his tokens from completing this Fight to Survive event here at the start. You see you get 40 tokens in total. So it's definitely very important to concentrate on finishing this event. Now you do get a lot of extra quests here. So there are more than 80 total quests. I believe it's 90 or so. Or actually I think it's more like 100 and something quests. And one thing you might want to pay attention to is the speed up spending quests here on the 4th and 5th day. So if you are able to save some speed ups for the 4th and 5th day, that would be beneficial. You're also going to want to make sure that you log in on all 7 total days. That way you get the 150 action points here, as well as these 200 huzzas. And the reason why we need those is that you get these infinite chests here at the bottom. You can claim these without unlocking the Path of Legends, and these give you just a little bit more goodies. So yeah, it's a good idea to go ahead and claim as much of those as possible. And this is another thing that I mentioned in my previous video for beginner tips. Especially as free-to-play though, you're going to want to level up your Pal Catcher workshop, because you're going to need a lot of these in order to maintain some form of relevance. So yeah, you're going to want to level this up as much as possible, and you're going to want to constantly be crafting these. And I think you might want to save them until you get access to catch slightly better Palmons. But yeah, you want to at least have some. Like, see, right now I have 12, which I think is pretty good. And yeah, the probability of catching a ultra rare Palmon out in the field starts at 18%, and it very, very slowly climbs above that. So for every 5 Pal Catchers that you have, assume that you're going to get 1 legendary Palmon or 10 shards, or I believe it's even 5 shards if you release them. So yeah, you're going to need a lot of those. Now let's go ahead and get into one more pretty important thing that we mentioned earlier, but it's about the SSR Palmon, and that is the fact that there are counters in this game. So if you are going for a 5 water type at the start, which I think kind of makes sense because it allows you to streamline what research that you're going for, remember that you are going to be weak to thunder units. So you are going to have a difficult time completing some content. But on the positive side of this, you are going to be able to go in to your Palmon research here and just focus on water type stats. You see these first 4 here, the one at the top and then the 3 underneath it, are all for Palmon that are water type. And then the only tech that you get after that that's for universal is when you get all the way down here, and this requires lab level 19. So before you get all the way up there, you're able to focus purely on water type stuff. And you're also going to want to make sure that you're upgrading your water totem here. You can see that this gives water units HP, attack, and defense, which is all very, very nice. Now, other than the research that you're doing in here for the water type Palmons, you are going to want to make sure, especially as free to play, as I mentioned in my previous video, that you go ahead and max out all of the additional building speed and research speed upgrades that you possibly can. This is going to just pay dividends over time, and it's going to ramp up your speed, and you definitely need all the help that you can get. Now, you are going to want to definitely just focus on one squad as well. As a free-to-play, you don't really have the resources, at least in the very early game, to expend on having several different squads. So make sure that you're focusing on your Squad 1 tech as well as your Amigo tech. But I think your Squad 1 tech is probably more important than your Amigo tech at the beginning, because you can focus on some of the things that don't even require Amigos. Like if you're going in and doing your idle battles, those don't require Amigos. I believe if you are doing the Palosseum, for example, I don't think that these require Amigos. Speaking of, let's go ahead and defeat this guy. Look at how crazy high powered he is without very much on defense there. Like, this guy's pretty weak and he's super high rated, so get another 200 points. That's nice. But yeah, you're going to want to make sure that you are prioritizing those two tech trees, I think, especially as free-to-play, since if you are going, at least in the early game, and fighting somebody who's not free-to-play, you're just going to get crushed. So I don't think that the Amigo tech here is quite as relevant for free-to-play. Eventually, you are going to want it, because you are probably going to want like the load capacity, and you're probably going to want the ability to do a little bit better against like PvE tasks as well. But you know, I think it's more important to focus on your first squad, and just focus on like Palosseum and stuff like that in the early game. And it's probably the biggest tip that I can give you if you are a free-to-play player and you are looking to play Palmon Survival, is that you have to remember that you don't want to take yourself too seriously, because as a free-to-play player, you are going to struggle in competing against some players that are spending just an insane amount of money. And there's nothing you can do about that in any game like this. So just remember to have fun. There are a lot of things that you can do to go ahead and crank out some extra value and get a bunch of additional palite. For example, one thing that you can do is, instead of attacking bully mons, you can go ahead and attack bully bosses instead, since attacking bully bosses does give you a chance to get palite and Palmon eggs. But you do have to remember that you, at least in the very early game, might have a hard time. So I would highly suggest also joining a good guild if you're able to just be friendly in chat and find yourself in the good graces of a guild. Maybe explain like, hey, I'm free to play, I just want to enjoy playing this game. Maybe you can get into a better guild than you otherwise would be able to get into, and that'll offer you both guild rewards, guild activities, and just general protection from other players in the map. And then eventually you will get into server versus server, which you can have some fun in, even as free to play. And yeah, hopefully you will enjoy the PvP content that this game has to offer. Speaking of, I will be making a video in the future on the PvP content in this game that will be covering the Sandstorm event, the Temple Battle event, and some other stuff like that as well, and that should be a bunch of fun. But yeah, that is it for this video. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day.